Welcome to SmithWeekly Discussions, an occasional program for our members of SmithWeekly Research. Please note this program is a private discussion, and everything contained herein is for entertainment and educational purposes only. With that, we hope you're in a comfortable position, along with your favorite beverage, to enjoy the discussion. We remind our audience to examine our show notes attached to each of our shows to better understand how our program functions. Before we get into our discussion, we want to say thanks for questions coming from our audience at SmithWeekly, including Jared W., Mike P., Andy J., and Paul M. On the program today is a returning guest. David Onofrio is with us. David is the Chief Executive Officer at White Gold Corp, a Yukon-focused gold exploration company that is progressing advanced stage projects with existing discoveries, along with earlier stage exploration projects, all within the White Gold District of Yukon. The company is listed on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the symbol WGO, and also on the US OTC markets under the symbol WHGOF. David, thank you for coming back on the podcast.
It is really great to be here. Nice chatting for you. Looking forward to it.
David, it's good to have you back. It's been, I think we talked last for White Gold was probably 2022 sometime. And
Yeah.
so it's good to have you back and get some updates on how the company's progressing. To kick it off, you've been on the program before, but it has been a while. How about just a brief overview of yourself and White Gold for our newer audience?
Yeah, for sure. Happy to do so. I think that's important to kind of really put the opportunity into context. So I'm based in Toronto. I'm a principal at the Power One Capital Group, which is a boutique merchant bank that's been very active in financing junior exploration and development companies for over 20 years now. And we really had the good fortune and privilege to have been involved with some exceptional management team and exceptional projects where we've gone from grassroots exploration through to dispositions with these projects being bought by major mining companies. And that is our ultimate goal in all these projects that we're getting involved with. And over the last 20 years, we've really been able to refine our approach and how we evaluate projects to get involved with, from the success that we've seen and what we learned that it took to get there. And you really, helps you handicap how do you optimize your success, right? At the end of the day, this is a business of risk, a lot of risk. And to the extent you can address that, that's just going to improve your chances of coming away with what we're all ultimately here for, is a big home run. And that's, really sort of helped us in the last 7 or 8 years to increase our success profile even further. And what's really nice in this sort of time in our careers is that we are now being very selective and able to work with these teams that we've had tremendous success with before. And, we also have been able to develop this very unique global relationship network with the strategic investors, the big mining companies, the corporates and what that helps you do is now you have kind of all the pieces of the puzzle at your fingertips. And to the extent you're starting to have the geological success, you're really able to sort of accelerate the timelines for success. And like I mentioned before, look to get into opportunities where you can have your optimal chances for success going forward. Through the years, and some of the names your listeners might have heard of, a very, starting right at the beginning was Aurelian Resources. That was a huge discovery, Fruta del Norte in Ecuador. Kinross acquired that. Now it's gone into production with the Lundin Group. We worked with Patrick Anderson again on the discovery in Ireland. Aurelian Resources, the lithium and battery metal space, something we've been very involved with a long time. We took Lithium Americas public in 2010. I was on the board of that for 6 years. They have two major projects now. One's in production, one's going to production in Argentina and Nevada. Through that process, we've learned a lot about Nevada. It's a great place for lithium, and are very involved with a company called Nevada Lithium right now, which I think has a chance to be one of the largest, if not the largest, lithium deposit on Earth. So, it's an exciting time for us because I think, this sector for mineral exploration has really been overlooked in the last 10 years. A lot of the flow of funds has gone into technology. You just look at who's out there investing in these things. Even in Toronto, in our own backyard, who's left in terms of these commodity investment funds? There's not much left, and that's really created an opportunity on two fronts. One, unfortunately, for people that are invested like ourselves, it's really depressed valuations. But I do think we're at a turning point in the sector here, where more interest is coming back into the commodities. We saw a little bit in the last couple of years with this decarbonization movement, how it brought the interest into your lithium, nickel, cobalt type names. But the precious metals still hasn't garnered that attention. And that's why I think, in the coming years, this is going to be an area where we're going to see a big re-rating. And to the extent you have teams and projects that are high quality, those should be re-rated more quickly. Another perfect example is Collective Mining, is a company we're involved with that's run by Ari Sussman. He was our partner in Continental Gold that had a 10 million ounce discovery in Colombia, sold to Zijin for a couple $2 billion. They're now on to another big discovery in Colombia with Collective Mining, and we think that could be double or triple the value of what Continental Gold sold for. So where does that lead us into White Gold? I tell you that for a reason. White Gold is amongst one of the most unique and special opportunities from a grassroots gold exploration company that I think we've come across in a long, long time. And that's why we really sort of look to partner with Sean Ryan, wrap our arms around it, and actually act as part of the management team, just because we think it's just such a different but unique opportunity that we wanted to stay close to it. And with our relationships, we were able to bring in two major mining companies that I think speaks volume in terms of what the opportunity is. And just from a high level, especially for people that may not be too familiar with the company or the jurisdiction, it doesn't take much to sort of quickly realize why it seems to be such an exciting opportunity. So our company, we're exclusively focused in Canada's Yukon. More specifically, we're in the Klondike district of the Yukon. This was the epicenter of the Great Gold Rush, which started about 125 years ago. And until today, it has continued to be mined. The placer creeks have continued to be mined from surface, producing over 20 million ounces. 20 million ounces on record. Who knows how much gold is actually produced and not recorded? So you have an area here with that much abundant gold on surface that really had never seen any modern day exploration. Now, that's pretty remarkable. What's even more remarkable about that is that it's in a tier 1 mining jurisdiction like Canada's Yukon, right? If this was in the middle of Africa or somewhere, maybe there'd be a reason why nobody went there. So you begs the question, why has nobody gone there? And that's a question for Sean Ryan, our partner, the notorious prospector, who was the guy to go there and really crack the code. And what he has explained to us is that the reason why nobody went there is that area of Canada, believe it or not, was actually never glaciated. And what that means is that the topsoil that was in place tens and hundreds of thousands of years ago has still been there. Most areas in North America, especially in Canada, where there's been glaciation, what that does is that exposes the outcrop. The prospectors look at the outcrop, and that is their primary exploration tool. You see something looks prospective, you bring it to the lab, you do a little bit more work, etc. That's what leads you there. Well, with no outcrop, the way people have been trained really doesn't work in that area, so nobody went. So what did Sean do? He researched, how other discoveries been made in other places in the world with no outcrop, and he was able to develop a very intricate methodology that was based on soil geochemistry. And utilizing that, he's a real sort of data guy, more of a scientist than a prospector in my view. He was able to identify which areas had the highest probability to be sitting on top of hard rock gold mineralization. And he was tremendously successful. And within a few short years of applying these modern day exploration technologies, he was able to make two major high-grade gold discoveries, one of which is owned by Newmont, called the Coffee Project. It was originally discovered with a company called Kaminak Gold, and that was bought by the majors for $500 million. And the other big discovery was called the Golden Saddle, and that's what White Gold has today. So here we are in this jurisdiction that's seen so much prolific placer gold mining, seen so little work done in terms of hard rock exploration, and the guy that sort of cracked the code is our partner. We've tied up basically the entire district, and we are now literally just scratching the surface. And what we've done so far has been tremendously successful, leading to, at the very least, a 2.1 million ounce gold resource at 2 grams, which I say at the very least with some jest. That's just exceptional type of deposit in a place like Canada. But what's even more exciting is we've seen what's led to the success of these two discoveries. We see what we have in our other million acres, and we think the opportunity for more of these is, we're just more and more optimistic and confident all the time. We've made a couple new high-grade discoveries, which we can get into already, and we think that there's many more to come.
David, that's great. I appreciate you covering everything here as far as background, how you're looking at White Gold. It's been a lot of tough years, and even though you guys have had success on the ground, it still continues to be very difficult in the sector, as you started to highlight. And I wanted to ask you a little bit more about that, because you're often involved in the capital markets and you're seeing a lot of these juniors having a tough time. Even ones that are having reasonably decent success are still having a tough time. And really the only ones that have any success are the ones that just have a really, really good drill hole or something to that effect. But the sentiment in the sector, I'd like to hear from you on, just with respect to the junior gold equities. It's been suppressed. A lot of the valuations really for a lot of them, and as you know, a lot of these don't have any value, but really the valuations today compare back to, boy, I think the run up before 2016 is where I'm starting to look now. What are your thoughts here? And you mentioned that this year could be a year that things start to turn around. How do you think the juniors get attention besides a really good drill hole?
So there's a couple of things. I've been doing this for 20 years, and it's the worst I've ever seen. And guys that have been doing it for 40 and 50 years tell me it's the worst that they've ever seen. So in terms of your sentiment check, I think that's a good place to start. But I think that's also the opportunity, right? This is a cyclical business, and the prudent and successful investors, you want to be a little bit ahead of the cycle. And that was actually a very interesting perspective. I was out at the Vancouver Resource Conference in January and talking to a lot of the thought leaders, and just sort of asking, we had the big battery metal interests last year, which I think is going to come back, and it's been uranium this year, which I'm a big bull in uranium. I just don't know how the pounds are going to come without much higher prices. That it is going to be needed. Like, this is not speculation as much, because they know the reactors are being built, but really what's the next sort of area where they think the interest is going to come. And in the junior sector, it's flow of capital that drives performance more than anything, right? It's the tide that's going to lift the boats, and then if you're fortunate to have success, you're going to go from there. Realistically, notwithstanding the fact that commodities like gold are at or pretty close to their all-time highs, we are still in a risk-off type of environment generally. I know in the U.S. some of the big tech names are doing quite well, but fundamental sort of investing principles, right? Rates are going up, risks sentiment comes down, and junior gold companies are really speculative equities more so than they are a proxy for the underlying commodity. So I think that's the fundamental issue, which is, if people are asking, how can gold be so high and these things be so low? I think that's the issue. Now, hopefully, as we're at a peak here in this interest rate cycle, and once we see the rates start to come down, or either they're going to come down, we'll get more flow of capital back into the speculative equities, which will certainly help, I think, this industry. We saw a little bit of that towards the end of 2024, as when people sort of thought rates might be coming down, and the equities kind of went up, gold really shot up, and it's starting to feel like we might be entering that time now. People are now asking not if interest rates are going to come down, but when. Obviously, that's anybody's guess. So, to your first question, how bad is it? It's bad. We're obviously fully invested in all these things, but always looking to add more, because I just do see this as historic lows in a lot of these equities, especially the ones that have defined deposits. Like, the hardest part of this business is actually making the discovery, right? To make a discovery and take it to a resource, that's like a 1 in 1,000 type probability. So a company like a White Gold that already has the benefit of beating the highest risk, which is making the discovery and delineating something of substance, and very good grade type substance. Hopefully, that's where the capital is going to come back to first, because that has the strongest argument to being able to make that big re-rating. And what's going to drive it? There's the interest rate component of the other side of the interest rates going down and bringing more risk appetite into the market, is that should lead to a higher gold price. So hopefully, in a few months from now, we're in a situation where we see gold higher prices. I don't know if it's $2,100 or $2 or $3 to really start getting people excited and believe that gold's kind of going to break away from its historic lows. But that's my thinking of what could lead to a resurgence in interest in the sector. And the nice thing about gold is it's a commodity that people know and understand and are able to get into in a bigger way, especially from a generalist type of an investor perspective. So that's really, I think, what it could take to sort of become a big catalyst for the market. The other thing that could happen, and at some point I think has to happen, is just more M&A activity, right? These majors have not been doing a lot of exploration in the last 10 years. I think globally exploration has been down just because the amount of capital available for exploration companies is down, but they do need to replenish their pipelines. There's, unless they plan on stopping to produce whatever their metals are, which is unlikely, then they're going to have to go replace them, and they're not doing exploration themselves, which means they have to go and buy junior companies. And that's when you can see some real big premiums being paid. I don't know if we mentioned earlier, Power One Group has been very involved with Osino Resources. They've made a great discovery out in Namibia. That was trading around 80 cents towards the end of 2023. One bidder came in and made an offer of $1.55. And as soon as you realize something's in play, another bidder shortly thereafter came over the top with a bid of 190. So that's like 100% premium almost within a matter of months. And to the extent that that starts happening, that could bring a lot more speculation to the market. So there's a lot of different things. You never know which is going to happen and when, but I think the probabilities of that kind of stuff happening are looking better and better all the time, and things hopefully will continue to snowball from there.
I appreciate the comments there and appreciate some of the highlights. And certainly Osino has been one of ours that we've kept an eye on. Boy, I think it was back to 18 or 19 or so. It's good to see some of this competition come in on M&A. Well, why don't we dive in here to White Gold, starting with the capital
Yes.
structure. Tell us where we are on shares outstanding at this point, David, the cash on hand post December 2023 equity financing, and then also major shareholders at this point, including yourself and the management team.
Absolutely. So we're now at about 175 million shares outstanding, traded about 24 cents Canadian, which is really historically unbelievable. When we first listed in 2017 without a deposit, I think we traded at $2. Obviously, there's a few less shares outstanding, but here we've gone and spent 70 or 80 million on top of probably the 50 that was spent before us by prior operators before we consolidated the district. We've had this phenomenal success. Had a huge resource which we've discovered and continue to grow of 2.1 million ounces, 2 grams, really sort of just open for expansion in so many different ways. And we're trading at our all-time lows, along with 95% of the other people in the industry, unfortunately. But from a value perspective, from a risk reward type perspective, it's pretty compelling. So more so than that, and I think where people might get really excited is just some of these other new discoveries we've had, like super high grade stuff of 5 grams over 25 meters. Not only that, where it is, but just even to take a step back, sort of where it is in our portfolio, where it is in the world. So now, in the last couple of years, there's been a few very significant developments in the Yukon itself. We are fortunate to have Agnico Eagle, one of the largest gold mining companies in the world, is a 19.9% partner. We have Kinross Gold also as a substantial partner, probably own about 15% of our company. So these guys have made the investment for a reason. And what's that reason? I think they look at this area of the Yukon as having the potential to become a very significant new Canadian gold camp. And it's not just them. Our neighbor to the south is Western Copper and Gold. They have just enormous copper gold porphyry. It's like 20 million ounces of gold and 14 billion pounds of copper. They've been able to attract Rio Tinto and I think it's Mitsubishi as substantial partners, right? So that's on their radar. Also contiguous to our properties and one of our recent high-grade discoveries is Newmont. They have the coffee project. They're advancing that. They're into the permitting phase. So there's been a lot of attention, a lot of investment in the area. But when's a camp a camp? A camp's a camp when mining starts, and that has progressed significantly in the last few years. What's helping to accelerate that even further, and this is a unique thing globally, is the government and the federal government and territorial government are putting up literally hundreds of millions of dollars to upgrade infrastructure in the territory, specifically to support mining and exploration. So that kind of stuff just doesn't happen hardly ever. But the fact to have that in our backyard is enormous. But for white gold in particular, it's just going to be an incredible game changer for us, because one of those infrastructure projects is upgrading some placer roads that cut right through our entire portfolio property, going from the Coffee Project up to Dawson. And that will basically make our entire portfolio road accessible for the most part. And for any exploration company to be able to have a road accessible projects, that just re-rates the probabilities immensely for a number of reasons. One, doing the exploration is less costly, but B, now the potential for any discovery to be economic is much higher. You know, where we are, we've made a couple million ounces. We haven't announced an economic study yet. We've done our own internal reports. You know, I think those are looking good. But when you're in a camp like Timmins, like Abitibi, like Nevada, which is what we think this is going to be, basically anything you discover, you know, you can dig it up and put it, you know, haul it to one of the mills in the area. So that's how we see this evolving. And the fact that that road's going to be coming right through our properties, and the fact that we really own everything there. And it's like, imagine going back in time and being able to acquire an entire gold camp like the Abitibi or Timmins or Nevada gold fields and owning that in one junior company. Like, what would that be worth? And when putting this company together, that was the vision. Like, that's really what we thought. And the opportunity to, first of all, compile that much of a property anywhere in the world is low and hard to do. But the ability to, and the fact that we were able to do it in Canada, in this place where they've had these 20 million ounces of gold, you know, discovered on surface, was almost too good to be true. And that is what really got us excited to do the deal in the first place. And that's also what brought Agnico and Kinross to the party as well. So there's a lot going on. You've seen a couple other majors come into the district as well. Hecla has come in via acquisition. Snowline Gold, which is not right in our district, they're a little bit to the east. They've had a phenomenal discovery. B2 Gold's come in and made a significant investment there. So pretty much almost every major gold mining company in the world now has a toehold in this area. So, you know, that I think speaks volumes to what people see as the future here. So we've kind of in the last year been springboarding off of a lot of this. You know, these are things that are going to be value add in the future, and these are all things you need to see for a camp to really have legs. And we are so, you know, fortunate to have this happening. But what we've been doing in the past number of years is what we can control, and that's with the drill bit. And we've had a number of phenomenal discoveries in that regard as well.
One of the recent news that came out was that you guys had some gold showings in soil samples over about a kilometer length on the QV property. Talk about that briefly, and then what do you see as the plans for follow-up there?
Yeah, so look to last year. We did two big focus areas of our work last year. One was up by this QB, which I'll touch on in a second, and that we there made a discovery there, and that's been delineated into a resource. And the best place to find gold is near gold. So we've gone and given ourselves a radius around where we've had success as areas. Listen, we have a lot of land and a lot of work to do, so you got to prioritize it. So we've been prioritizing targets near our existing gold deposits. So that was one. And then the other one focus area was on our project called the Betty Project. And so this is down on the southern end of our portfolio. It's contiguous to Newmont's Coffee deposit that they're permitting right now. It's contiguous to that massive Western copper and gold porphyry that I mentioned earlier. And that was a total grassroots project when we, were able to get our ownership of it. And we've made a very significant high-grade discovery there that we've been drilling out for the last couple of years. And, you know, the tenor of what we're seeing is just so remarkable. You know, the first discovery diamond hole was 3.5 grams over 50 meters from surface. We've stepped that out to the east and the west, hitting, you know, 9 meters of 18 grams, 5 grams over 20 meters, 5 grams over 25 meters to the east. So that is really coming together to be an exciting high-grade opportunity. And what makes it really so interesting is that A, it's right at surface. B, it's along the same fault system that holds Newmont's coffee deposit. And this area is just elephant country. Like there's so much gold we're finding all over the place, and that we think that the opportunity down here is just tremendous. So that was an area last year where we did some more diamond drilling, continue to have success, continue to expand the zone of mineralization. So we're really excited to go back there and do some more work this year. And that other project you mentioned was on our VG property. It's sort of up to the north. That's pretty close to our Golden Saddle deposit. And what we saw there was this is a brand new target that was delineated. It was delineating using the same protocols that led to the discovery of all our other deposits and projects. That target there has a lot of the same characteristics that our other successful deposits had in the very early days. So that's another brand new target we'll be working up this year, and time will tell, but based on the early indicators, we're pretty excited by what we're seeing there. And that's really the nice thing. Like, we've done this now for several years. We've seen which of these different indicators have led to success in one way or the other, and that's helping us to sort of really hone in to the areas we should be focusing on. And the more we're learning, the more success we're having. And in the last number of years, between ourselves and with the help of Sean Ryan and his team, we've been able to compile, I think it's over 500,000 soil samples now. So that's probably one of, if not the largest geochemical soil databases in the world. And when you have that kind of data, you really understand the system, the geological systems that are in place. And that's what I think the majors really like. Like, that's how the majors think. They're looking for platforms, especially how big they're all getting. They want to be producing hundreds of thousands of ounces a year, and you really need that kind of intel to be able to sort of work up a camp like that. So those are two projects where we've had a lot of success, and we're just very optimistic to get back and start working on them again in a couple of months here.
It was interesting news there, and hopefully we see some follow-up there as you guys get around to evaluation of those, what can be done next there as far as targets. I want to switch gears too, and I know there's a lot of different projects we can talk about here, but you guys have pretty well defined deposits at Golden Saddle, Arc, and Ryan's Surprise, which would be collectively a single operation in my opinion. What are the next plans there to expand the deposits at those locations? When do you see that happening? Do you guys plan to go after expansion there? And then at what point do you think it is suitable for White Gold to put a PEA around this project? Because it's starting to get into that area where you maybe look at that.
Yeah, you're right. That is a logical next step, right? The first thing we wanted to show the critical mass. We've done that. From an exploration perspective, there's 2 or 3 different ways that core deposit area could continue to grow. Number one, the actual deposit itself remains open in multiple directions. You can do just more drilling on it. Where we've been focused in the last couple of years is just to the west. We found another highly mineralized area called the Ryan's Trend. It's about 6 kilometers long, kind of trending northwest, and about 1 kilometer wide. That area had seen basically no drilling historically. It was another new discovery we made. We've done some drilling on that in sort of 2019, 2021, and we're able to make a discovery called this Ryan's Surprise, which is now in our resource. We think there's tremendous opportunity there, and that trend leads right up to the VG, where we had our deposit and this other new target we discovered. So that whole area is ripe to continue to add ounces to our global resources, which is something that we're keen to do. And then the other thing that could go alongside of that, I agree, is a PEA, right? So now you see the critical mass. It's hard, I would really like, as a CEO, to be able to talk about what we think that value is. So that's certainly something we're considering. Now, when does that get done? If we had the time and the money, I would like to do it, yesterday. But strategically, I'm going to take a step back to see, how was this company set up? This company was set up to be a project generator, right? We own an entire district. At one point in time, this was 7 or 8 different companies when these discoveries were first being made, with a market cap on our structure would be $7 or $8 a share. What we would like to do, and based on what our strengths are, is make these early discoveries, roll them out in one capacity or the other, whether we sell it, JV it, spin it out to a new company, allow for White Gold to receive the benefits of that value creation, keep some of the money to continuing to advance our exploration projects, and then pay the shareholders the remainder. And why we like that type of a model is it's very exciting. You keep doing the most exciting work, which is the exploration. I'm sure all your listeners are familiar with the Lassonde curve. That's where you can create the most value the most quickly. But B, that's what our real expertise is. And then at that next level is where you see a lot more of the heavy lifting type of delineation drilling, where, if you were to spin out, or say the Golden Saddle, for example, and put 20 million bucks to go through a feasibility, I wouldn't be surprised to see it double or triple in size and get some real spectacular economics around it. So we're in a point now where we're evaluating a lot of these different opportunities, right? There's clearly a lot of interest in an asset of that size and tenor, in its own right as a gold deposit. We have these other new discoveries, which I think we can add a lot of value ourselves before we're looking to do anything like that. And what's interesting is, and you touched on it, we have so many different types of properties. The Yukon is just so incredibly well endowed from a mineralization perspective. We have some targets down by the Casino copper gold porphyry that look almost exactly the same. So, we could be sitting on these massive copper gold deposits as well. We just, haven't really been able to do a ton of work. We did some in the last couple of years. Looks very prospective. We did some more last year, with information still in the process of being received and processed and put out. But there's just so much going on. But if I could have my sort of sketch this future out how I would like it to play out, it would be just that. White Gold makes a discovery, spends a little bit of time, works it up, demonstrates significant value and significant upside, and then look to monetize that in some capacity and keep doing it over and over again. And when Sean Ryan brought us this idea initially, he saw this as a 20 to 30-year opportunity. He comes from the Timmins camp. He lived through that, right, through the 70s or even before to the 2000s, and he thinks this is no different. And here we are, just scratching the surface and having so much success. What's going to happen when we start to go a little bit deeper? It's probably incrementally more opportunities as well.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to continue to expand those deposits where you can demonstrate more ounces there. It looks like you have plenty of directions there to go to demonstrate that potentially. And then also just with the strategic partners that you guys already have on the roster, looking at things like PEA level economic studies probably isn't too difficult to get done if some demonstration is needed. But I agree, you guys have a lot of other work to do too. So
yeah, we've worked up our own internal reports, which are pretty much almost there. We like what we see. So to go to that next level makes a lot of sense.
right. Any other comments on other projects for 2024 and maybe early 2025 that you want to mention here, and then we'll move on
Yeah,
to some.
so we're literally in the finalization phase of our 2024 plans. It's first day of March here at PDAX next week. We're going to be meeting with our partners, going over some ideas, getting their inputs. We're fortunate to have these exceptional partners that are happy to offer their technical expertise and helping us refine our plans. So nothing's been finalized yet, but what I would certainly expect to see more work is down on our Betty property. The success we've been seeing there, the high grades, so near surface, the continuity of mineralization within the holes, that area there looks like it could be very exciting. There's these two big copper targets nearby the casino. These porphyries, they happen in clusters. We've done some work there. It's looking very prospective. That could be interesting for some more work. This new target we've discovered up by the VG that you touched on earlier, that's exciting. It looks almost identical to the VG deposit and the Golden Saddle. That certainly is begging to be drilled. So excited to do some more work and get that ready to drill. We have different components of our pipeline of work, and there's a couple of new targets that have seen literally no work to date, which, based on the structural review we've done in our soil geochemical database, looks like they could be interesting. Kind of a high flyer out of nowhere. So next year, typical to the years in past, I think we'll have work on continuing to expand these discoveries and looking to make new discoveries, as well as looking for areas to continue to show and demonstrate the opportunity for our flagship deposit to continue to add more global ounces in our portfolio.
Well, looking forward to seeing what you and Sean and the team are able to continue to generate here as you guys progress this year. On the community front, David, always like to ask folks about this. Any highlights there to align the community in support of exploration projects like the ones you guys are working on, local services utilization, and even education, which I think is severely needed with just respect to natural resource development?
It's a great question. It's something that's fundamentally important to us and all the companies we're involved in. And we look to work very close with all the local communities, the First Nations, the people of Dawson and surrounding areas, and look for them to, we view them as a partner, right? We're going to need to work with them through this journey. And we want to make sure that we have a very strong relationship with them based on trust and transparency. And we've been, investing in that since literally day one. So this is something that's very important, and to the extent we can collaborate and make this a better place for everyone, that's our goal here, and we continue to work on that, and that can happen in many different ways through different types of support, and that's a priority and something we discuss and look to execute on every year. And we're in the fortunate position to have somebody ahead of us kind of doing a lot of the legwork and building these relationships even further, right? So that's to be able to ride the coattails of someone else to sort of lay the groundwork. And it's helpful to know everyone's perspectives as you're operating instead of just sort of always trying to figure them out on your own. So with Newmont permitting that coffee deposit, that's great. And seeing all the other success that's been going on in the Yukon, so pretty, we're very fortunate in that regard as well.
Just over on overall strategy, and I know you already covered some of it here. So it's my understanding that you guys would plan to, as these deposits get brought up, they get advanced, they get proven up. Basically, the model would be then once you guys think that they're at a point where they should be moved on, you guys will spin out and monetize those assets. Maybe the other option too is as you guys progress these collections of deposits, which you already have a collection, at some point, I would suspect that you guys are also open to folks having takeout discussions should something become of significant interest for a major to come in and buy you out. Are those kind of the two things that you see that you guys would be looking to do as you
Yeah,
progress this company over the long term?
exactly. We're a very commercial group. We're the largest shareholders here, very aligned with all the other shareholders. And at the end of the day, fundamentally, our goal is to increase shareholder value in a sustainable and responsible manner. And whatever makes the most sense from that perspective is what we're going to be entertaining. The way the company was built. Listen, if somebody wanted to buy the whole company and the price is right, absolutely. But there's no one else on the planet that has the kind of expertise that we have. And that's why Agnico wanted to get involved with this in the first place. They basically looked at White Gold as their Klondike District exploration arm. Because otherwise, Sean's been doing it for 20 years. How do you replace that? So I could more likely see once something's been de-risked and it's at the level where the expertise of a larger company is what's needed, that's when they would take that over because, they don't have the expertise themselves to be able to do the early stage work on their own. Now, again, like I said, if that's what the arrangement looks like and the value's there, sure, that, why not? But, our team, we're just, we want to be out there making discoveries, and this is one of the best places on the planet that we've been able to find to do it. It's just so well minerally endowed. It's safe. We know the rules. We know the people. We know what's led to success, and we just plan on being there for a long time to doing it over and over again. And we're just really fortunate that there's other big companies that share that view. We see all these majors moving into the district, and that there's a reason for that. And I think that's, as investors, you want to be ahead of the curve, and we certainly have been. Maybe we were even a little bit too early, but once this camp, all the pieces of the puzzle are there, and they're really starting to come into place. And in the true value unlocking phase, which I think is now, because that's the diamond drilling is really starting with all these targets. We're positioned to benefit from it more than anyone.
Yeah, and as you guys continue to work these targets, as you said, you guys have been working in this area for a number of years. And of course, Sean has been there for a long time. So the efficiencies are definitely ramping up as well as the way I'm looking at this, and obviously target selection and just narrowing things down. So hopefully we see more progress on that front. Well, David, thank you for the update and the time. Why don't we leave it there for now? But before we go, for potential investors who are listening in, the company has a market capitalization today of about 42 million Canadian dollars. Why should White Gold Corp be considered within the institutional family office and retail investors portfolio at this stage?
Yeah, it's a really unique opportunity. One, you have a defined resource of very exceptional caliber. It's big, it's got high grade, and it has the opportunity to grow substantially. And we know how that would grow, when the work is getting done. So that there on its own, if we had nothing else in this company, I would say is significantly undervalued. And in terms of timing, I do, feel pretty optimistic that we're going to head into a pretty strong gold market here, and that increased interest I think is going to lift all the boats. But companies with good projects and good places, I think, will get re-rated the first and the most. So that I think is one reason. That's your downside risk protection. But we have a tremendously exciting grassroots portfolio. The work we've done on that in the last few years has been tremendously successful. We've made a number of high grade discoveries. I think we've really cracked the code into how to keep doing more and finding more of those. And you have all of this within a exceptional jurisdiction, and that's really what's brought two of the best mining companies in the world to be our largest shareholders along with the founders. So this is checks all the boxes, I think, for what you're looking for, and the timing now. This is as the press as most people have ever seen it. So if you're looking to kind of get a little bit ahead of the crowd, maybe this could be the perfect setup.
David, and what's the best way for interested parties to contact the company?
Yeah, go to our website. All our contact info is there. A lot of information there, some incredible media footage, videos. This is really a special place to work. Anyone that's interested in gold mining exploration, this is an area that's been seeing it for over 125 years now. It's really a special place to be able to work. We're very fortunate to have done it. So go there. I think there's a link to set up meetings. We as a management team really appreciate all our shareholders, so we're happy to make ourselves available any given time for people with questions or comments or just wanting to learn more. So feel free to reach out, and we will definitely get back in touch with you.
David, that's great. Well, good to talk to you again here. Thank you for the update at White Gold and best of luck in 2024. Thank you for the time.
Yeah, thanks so much. Stay tuned. I'm extremely excited for this year for sure.